guys, welcome to the Dragon's Voice podcast. I am your host, Julie Rees-Deans. I hope you guys are doing well at this current situation in the lockdown. Now, these are pre-recorded podcasts, so if we mention anything that's out of date or anything like that, just keep in mind, these podcasts are pre-recorded in advance. They're not live. We get a lot of mistakes happening with a lot of guests going, we're live, but it's all good. But today we got a very special guest here, and it's a former Darlington, Wrexham, and he's also a former Bala Town player. He's played for the Wales U21s. He's also been called up for Wales, and it's none other than Ryan Valentine. Ryan, how's it going?
Very well, thanks. Just sitting at home at the minute on half term, working at school. So yeah, just enjoying a bit of time for myself at the minute.
And how's Bala Town getting along then? Because you're now a first team coach now, is that right?
It is, yeah. We've started off the season well. We've had one little blip. We got beat a home game to Haverfordwest, but other than that, it's been a good start. It seems as if we've been playing forever still already. With getting into Europe, we start pretty early. Preparations for the new season. Take off quite early in the summer, and we were preparing for that. And then obviously we're going through the first leg against Valletta, playing standard liaison, then going to league games. It just seems to be Saturday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Saturday again, midweek games. So yeah, it just seems as if the season's been going for a while for us so far.
Yeah, I've always got some memories at Bala, considering because I'm not just I know we talked about not just an Everton fan, but I'm also a Barry Town supporter as well. So a bit of rivalry here, but I got a lot of respect for Bala, especially some good memories, and always a tough team, but I'll never forget the 5-2 game. I'll never forget the 5-2. But it's not about that anyway. It's not about rivalries. It's about your career, and and how it started up. So you started your career at Everton, really. So how did that come about?
Yeah, I'd been around a couple of football league clubs from an early age. Got released actually, or let go, or whatever you want to say. Told I'm good enough at a young age by Wrexham. I think that would have been under 10. I think. Left there, went just back into grassroots for 12 months, and then I'd kind of gone around a couple. I'd gone to Stoke City, I think, for 12 months. I went to Aston Villa for another 12 months. And then when I was 14, I think it was, I had the chance to go to Everton. So there was a couple of other clubs as well, maybe wanted to go on trial and have a look at me. But I think with Everton, it was, everything about it kind of, the parents, even they made my parents feel welcome, made it feel as if they really wanted me, above all the other clubs as well. So it wasn't really a hard decision. As soon as they come, and I'd gone to the facilities, gone for a couple of training sessions, I spoke to my parents. Like I said, it was an easy decision to make to sign for them.
And how did you experience your time at Everton then? What was the staff like, and what was the environment like for you?
It was brilliant. Like I said, they did treat me really well. They used to come over to Wrexham. There was a couple of us, 2 or 3 of us from the Wrexham area who'd signed in that same age group at the time, and they'd put transport on, come over to Wrexham, pick us up Tuesday, Thursday nights, even at under 14, to get us over to Belfield. That was the old training ground at the time. So we were going over there two nights a week. I think it was a Tuesday and a Thursday, even at a young age, and it was just the whole environment. Obviously, Everton are a big club, and they've had a few years where they might have been towards the bottom of the Premier League, but obviously now with a bit of investment, new owners, new manager going in and stuff, I think they'll challenge this year, I think, for the top 4.
Yeah, it was. It's growing up as an Everton fan. It's always been a very love-hate relationship when it comes to supporters, because there's a grand history, if you want to say that, because finding success in the 60s, 70s, and definitely the 80s, and And obviously the last trophy Everton won was back in '95. I mean, that was a year before I was born. But but when you got called up to the first team, but did you make any appearances in friendlies, FA Cups or Carling Cups at the time, or?
No, I went there at 14, did a couple of years in the academy, went full time. I left school at 15 then, and I went in there full time, did 1 year YTS as they called it then, and then I left there, did 3 year pro then. So I was a pro for 3 years, and it was just in and around the reserves. Didn't get the chance to play in the first team, wasn't good enough. You know, I won't make excuses. I think young lads now, clubs are looking after them a lot better, and they'll give them maybe, you know, until they're 21, 22, even 23 sometimes. You know, they send them out on loan, and they just keep them in that environment, the first team environment, which for me, I don't think is the right thing. I think if you're good enough, by the time you are 18, 19, you'll be in and around the first team, you know, you'll be making the bench and stuff like that. So I think if by that age you're not in the team, I went anyway. I went to Darlington from there into League Two and played in the Football League. But even now, I think players at the bigger clubs, Premier League clubs, it's that hard to break in. If you're not going to break in, me personally, I would rather have gone and played football, you know, rather than just being there training, playing the under 23s and stuff. If you're 22, 23, you want to be playing football. You don't want to be in the under 23s and stuff like that. So yeah, I was there till 19. Wasn't good enough, only in the reserves, and I left to go to Darlington.
And speaking of Darlington, well, what was how did the transfer begin, and how did it go for you to be playing at a club like Darlington?
Yeah, it was strange. Being from Wrexham, Everton's only an hour away, really. And I hadn't really looked too much into, you know, a lot of the Football League clubs lower down, especially the ones right up north like Darlington is, or down south. You know, you're just kind of concentrating on the Premier League as a young lad and trying to make it there. And like I said, at 19, got told I wasn't going to get another contract, left out, and I went to Oxford. I had a trial at Oxford and a trial at Darlington. Again, it was kind of like the Darlington one. They made me feel as if they wanted me, whereas Oxford were stalling a little bit. You know, I didn't know whether I was going to sign there or not, or whether they wanted me. So Darlington went up there. They made me an offer and made me feel as if I was part of it and stuff. So I just signed up there, even though it was 3-4 hours away, wherever it was.
You made over in your first stint, as they say, you know, at Darlington, 150 league appearances. You know, you were there for just about, I'd say, roughly 4 to 5 years. Darlington at the time, I mean, we all know now Darlington have had financial problems and that, but they've just they're bouncing back, and I think they're slowly climbing the league system, the English league system now. But when you were playing for Darlington at that time, what was it like for you to be playing for a club like Darlington, and do you hold any good memories at the club?
Yeah, it was, looking back now, and people do ask, and it was probably my most enjoyable time. I was there 4 years, the first time round, and it was just a whole new experience. Like I said, a young lad of 19 when I went up there, different part of the country, and I did settle in quite well. They made me feel welcome, and it was, like I said, straight into the first team. So it was, you don't really have time to think as a young lad you want to play football. So I went up there straight into the first team. They're in the Football League, like you just said. They've had their trouble since, but it was in the Football League, and I just enjoyed playing the football week in, week out. Just getting all, you know, the experiences and the games under my belt, which I really enjoyed.
Do you know when you because of course when you had the two, because you played for Darlington on 2 occasions and everything, did you play at the Darlington Arena? I haven't looked into the Darlington Arena, the way it was constructed, because it was apparently it was a big ground for a club like Darlington, and it just seemed so bizarre. So what was your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was, when I first signed, actually, the day I signed, I went, and the ground was getting built at the time. Even that was probably one of the attractions. You know, we went, and the chairman at the time, I'm not sure if you've looked into him or you know much about him, George Reynolds, but he was a colourful character. I think he'd had a few brushes with the law and stuff like that, and it was his big idea. And you know, the ground was getting built, and I met him in a porter cabin on the stadium the day I signed, in the car park of the new stadium. But for the first, I think it was 2 seasons, we were at the old Feetham's ground, which was more in the town really. A smaller ground with a little cricket pitch. You had to walk around the cricket pitch to get to the ground, and it was a good atmosphere. It was the old school type of football league ground. You know, probably, I don't know exact numbers, but you know, probably held 5,000-6,000, and when it was, you know, quite full, it generated a good atmosphere, and I enjoyed playing there. And then after 2 years, the ground was ready. Then the new ground, and we moved into that. But like I said, it was a bit surreal going in there. The first few games, I think there was, and still didn't even fill half of the ground, but you know, the attendances maybe did get up to 7,000-8,000, or maybe a little bit more, you know, because it was a new thing. People of the town come to have a look at the ground, but they soon dropped back down to the between 3,000 and 4,000, I'd say. And you know, in a ground of, I'm not sure if it was 25 or 27,000, you know, just a complete bowl. There was no gaps in it. A big stadium like that. It was sometimes, you know, you had to generate your own atmosphere as a player, really.
And especially as well because with Darlington, it's so surreal because you know it's like looking at the Wales national team, right? I mean, okay, it's not going to be comparing the likes of Darlington, you know, but when Wales were playing in the Millennium Stadium, you know, there was only a traction of from between 10 to, let's say, 20 odd thousand people back in the early 2000s and everything, you know, because, you know, the Millennium Stadium was sort of the second biggest stadium going in the UK, and, you know, attracting a lot of games and everything. But it seemed a bit ironic that Wales wasn't attracting the full capacity compared to the rugby team, and then going into the Cardiff City Stadium, then, you know, you guarantee the full packed crowd. So was there any particular moment that at Darlington did you think that something's not going to go right here? Something is definitely, considering that a huge stadium was built, but did you think something wasn't right, or was you just fully concentrating on the football and that was it?
Like I said, I was probably young. I was in my early 20s by the time I moved into the ground, and you do tend to just concentrate on the football. You know, as you get older and you look back and you're more experienced, you do maybe notice things that are going on in the background, or, you know, investment into the club, maybe stuff that's going on with chairmans or managers. And if I'd have been experienced, you might have noticed them kind of at the time. I was early 20s, like I said, and I just wanted to enjoy my football. Should have probably seen the signs a little bit, you know, that the club maybe would struggle and it wouldn't go anywhere, because even though whether he'd spent up his money, you know, on the ground, I'm not sure how much it cost, but a 25,000 or 27,000 seat stadium is going to, you know, cost a few £1 million. And the team, no disrespect, that was in it, you know, it wasn't invested in or nothing. It was just kind of happy to be in League Two. I think in the press at the time and stuff, I think the chairman, Georgie, he was saying that the club could go and play in the Championship. That's why he built the stadium. He wanted to move up the leagues. But I think unless you've got the structure, the infrastructure right, you know, behind the scenes, you're investing in that, you're investing in maybe an academy, you know, and stuff like that, I don't think you're ever going to move up. And, you know, we're just a squad that's just happy to be in League Two. You need to invest in the squad, the whole club. And I don't think the investment was there other than the actual stadium itself.
When you signed for Wrexham, your hometown team, and you know, and you got a lot of historical moments there, specifically this particular one, which I'll mention in a minute. But how did the transfer happen for you to go back to Wrexham?
I've been there Darlington 4 years, and I enjoyed the football. But I'd spoken to a scout at the time at Wrexham during one of the summers, and he said, would I be interested in moving back to Wrexham? I think Wrexham had just been relegated out of League One at the time into League Two. But obviously growing up here, I supported them. I used to go and watch Wrexham every opportunity I could. So given that chance to go and sign for them again, even though I'd enjoyed my time up in the northeast at Darlington, I enjoyed everything about the club and the people there. It was just a chance that I wanted to take. Obviously no boy's going to turn it down. If you grew up supporting a club, so it was just more so that to come back to my hometown club that I'd supported really.
When you did go back, you had names such as Steve Evans, Sean Pejic, you had Chris Llewellyn, you had some top names, who've made their first team appearances for Wales and for the squad and everything. And of course, there was a struggle, trying to stay up in the Football League system. And I'm going to mention this, and it's one of my favorite moments, even though, I'm not a Wrexham fan, but I do love historical football moments. And the Wrexham and Boston United game always sticks out for me. And I thought, what a game that was, especially for the Wrexham fans, especially for you guys, especially for you yourself, because you scored one of the goals. So I just wanted to tell you, can you tell us a story of how did you approach the game? What was the build-up like? And what was your experience just scoring one of the winning goals?
Yeah, obviously the build-up that week, we obviously knew we needed minimum point to stay up, and I think training intensity, everything about that week did ramp up a little bit, knowing the importance of the game. I think being local as well, I've got loads of friends and people like that now still that are Wrexham supporters, go watch the game. So everything about the week leading up to it was more intense than a usual league game. And yeah, obviously going 1-0 down in the first half, it was nervous moments during the game. I think at any level, it's a shame, that it was a relegation battle in League Two. But I think in any, big games at any moment throughout any leagues, went 1-0 down, and there was nerves. There was nerves at half time. There was nerves during the game, and then we got the penalty, and it wasn't a case of, few people have asked me what, since was you the penalty taker. I think I took a couple early on the season, but I think there'd been one or two that I took them, during the season after I'd scored early on in the season. And there was no designated penalty taker. It was just one of them moments. I don't know what come over me. I just grabbed the ball and I wanted to take it, and thankfully it went in. And then we scored the 2 goals through Chris Llewellyn afterwards, and Proctor as well.
And especially there's a picture, of you taking the penalty, and it's a famous picture. It's like a sea of red of Wrexham fans in the stand, and there's you taking up. What was that like for you when you scored the goal? The place must have just blew up, and you must have just lost your mind along with the crowds.
Yeah, but like I said, looking back at my career, people ask you best moments, and even playing through Wales internationals and starting off Everton, that is probably the best moment for me. The feelings I got from scoring the penalty, probably relief as well in there, excitement, relief, everything really. Like you said, there was a whole host of emotions that run through you at the time, and yeah, I'd say that is the standout moment for me, that I've never really felt anything like that in football.
And during your time at Wrexham, you did get a call up to go in play for Wales, and that same as Steve Evans, your teammate, and although unlike Steve Evans, even though you were picked, you didn't get a cap or anything. But what was it like just to be part of the squad, just to experience that, and especially working under John Toshak at the time? So what was that like for you? Again,
it comes a close second to scoring that penalty. Getting the phone call and being told, you've been called up to the senior squad. I think it was there was a few games. It was a double header. I think we went away to the Czech Republic in a European qualifier. I think it was 2-0 that game, and then we come back to play Brazil at White Hart Lane. I didn't even get in, I was kind of like 18th man, as you call it, or whatever. I didn't actually make the bench in the 2 games, but just even being around some of the names and, within the squad, Giggs and Bellamy's and, there's too many to go through all the other top players that are playing in the Premier League, playing the Championship and stuff. It was just a great experience to be around, and help me then even go away and improve as a player. Not just the football side of it. Yeah, you see how intense they are in training and what they want to do and how, they're just winners on the pitch, but away from the pitch as well, the habits and stuff like that. So it was good. It was good for me just to be in and around it, even though I didn't get on the bench or get on and get a cap. Even though I think it was Cyprus then. Actually, after that there was a few games. I think that was another European qualifier, and that was at the Millennium. And I actually got on the bench for the Cyprus game, but unfortunately didn't get on the pitch to get a cap either in that game. So yeah.
What's your take on John Toshak as a manager? Because he's a particular, he's up there as a, like a controversial type of manager because of the way a lot of senior players either just suddenly retired or quit the national team because of John Toshak. But what was your reception of the man himself?
Okay, he's got a massive name in football, hasn't he? He's played at the highest level, he's managed at the highest level. So just getting called up and being around that, by someone of that stature was brilliant for myself. It was only 2 or 3 games, and looking back again, it was, what was I, 23 at the time, I think. You don't notice all the other things that are going on around it, and some of the senior players I know at the time, like you said, I think did pull out of squads, and I think some even retired, didn't they, at the time for a year or 2 while he was in charge, and then maybe come back to play afterwards. So I don't know exactly what went on, between them and him, but at the time I was just happy to be in and around the squad. And I think he did try and bring a few younger ones into the squad at the time, which thankfully for me, it gave me a chance to at least sit on the bench in one of the games and be in and around the squad. And
especially as well, there were the big names in the squad as well. You said you had your Bellamy's and your Ryan Giggs and that. Do you know when you went to Czech Pro or you went away to Wales, who was your roommate at the time?
It was Mark Jones as well. He was another lad from Wrexham who was playing with me there at the time as well. So it was just us two. At first, I got in the Czech Republic and the Brazil game, so it was nice just to have a familiar face to travel and stay in the hotel and stay in the room with as well.
Do you still keep in contact with Mark Jones? Because he's a former Bala player as well,
Yeah, I do. Funny enough, I've just literally 15 minutes ago been texting him there on the phone about stuff. Yeah, so not as much as I used to, but even like I said, I've played at Wrexham with him, being a Wrexham lad. I played at Bala with him as well. So yeah, we do still keep in contact. Yeah.
Moving, let's talk about then, because we already mentioned you playing for Darlington. You made a return after 2 seasons with Wrexham because they went down and you'd have to go back to Darlington. I bet the reception was pretty well received, considering because you're a former Darlington player and club legend, as you say, because you played for a few years for Darlington. So what was it like for your second spell?
Yeah, it was much the same really. I'd gone back up there. There was a few familiar faces still. Martin Gray was the assistant at the time, and Dave Penny was the manager who had just got promoted with Doncaster. I think he'd gone up a couple of leagues, not sure if he got out of the conference or the national as they call it now, up into League 2, and I think he'd even took Doncaster into League 1. So Dave Penny was the manager, and it was a new chairman. We were playing in the new ground, but it was a new chairman at the time, and there was a bit more money about it invested in the squad. So I was going back to a better squad, and we were expected to go up out of League 2 into League 1, and we were in the top 3 all season, and then we kind of just fell away, and we ended up in the playoffs then, and we got beat in the playoffs by Rochdale, I think it was, and they ended up going on and playing at Wembley. Can't remember if they went up or not, but yeah, there was a bit more investment in the squad at the time. And the squad was strong enough, should have gone up into League 1. again, it was much the same. I enjoyed my time up there. The people that were still in and around the club, got on well with them, enjoyed it, and it was just a shame then I left after 2 seasons or 18 months. Again, the club fell on hard times, went to administration, and they're slowly, making their way back up there in the Conference North now. I'm not sure how they started the season, but hopefully one day they can get back in the Football League as well, because I'd spent 6 years up there altogether, and I would like to see him back in the Football League, definitely.
Especially going Hollywood with the Hollywood investments of Ryan Reynolds and that. When you first heard about that news, did you thought it's a bit of a wind up in it? Did you first thought that like anyone else, or did you think, is it legit or?
Yeah, I still don't. At first, maybe I thought, is it a wind up? And then obviously, as it's getting more, more media attention, I think you do start thinking, yeah, it could be serious, and hopefully, it does all go through. I think when you've been around a lot of Football League clubs, and a lot of mine have gone to administration, they've had money problems and stuff, and you see chairmen come and go, and different people invest and stuff. I think you become wise to it. So until the deal's done and he's in Wrexham, he's took over and he's putting some money in, then we'll just take it as it is, I think.
You went to Hereford United after Wrexham. What was your time like at Wrexham? At Hereford?
Yeah, again, I've enjoyed all the Football League clubs. I haven't really had a problem. It was a smaller League Two club, tight knit community. Again, people there made me feel welcome, and it was good. Again, the first season was good. The second season, it always seems to be, after a couple of years, the club had fallen hard times, had changed the manager and stuff, and then I ended up getting a bad hip operation, which that kind of put an end to me playing full time. So I ended up leaving there then and going into the conference with Telford, who were part time. And it kind of helped just training a couple of times a week, obviously after having a hip operation.
And especially as well, you went to Telford as soon as afterwards as well. For I think it was 2 seasons, was it, at Telford?
2 seasons, yeah. Went there.
And what was your time like at Telford as well? Because was it injuries problem, or was it because I looked it up that you got released with 5 other players? Was that to do with finances, or was that to do with just a new management?
The first season I signed there, they were in the conference at the time, or the National League as they call it now. And we were part time, and it was a struggle. And even I think now, I'm not sure exact numbers, but for part time clubs to try and compete in the National League, it is a struggle. Financially, fitness and stuff, and people try and bridge the gap. But it was a struggle. We stayed up in the first season, and we did well. For that league, Telford, the crowds were quite good. The stadium, it's a brilliant setup there, lovely stadium. But in the second season, it was a bit of a struggle, and they ended up going back down the second season. And I just ended up parting ways with the club, yeah.
So let's go on to Bala now, and so much to talk about Bala, considering your first team coach and everything. So when you went to Bala, I'm going to ask again, same as Telford and Hereford, how did it happen? But, and as a player, what was it like to be playing in the Welsh Premier League, as it was called at the time?
Yeah, it come about through Mark Jones again. Obviously speaking to him regularly, and I knew the right back that they'd had moved on. I think he'd gone abroad to play somewhere. So Mark, I said, speak to the manager, Colin, obviously, and I knew they needed a right back. So I spoke to Col, met Colin, and again made me feel welcome, and put it across. They'd just got in. They'd beat Port Talbot, I think, in the playoffs in the Welsh Prem to get into Europe. So again, the whole project, I knew a bit about the club through Mark, and it just seemed the right thing to do at the time.
And during your time at Bala, you played in a lot of games. Obviously, you made it's stated that you made over 100 appearances for Bala. You played in European football as well. And I don't want to knock it down a bit, but I remember it was you said you retired in the 2018-19 season, but there's one particular game that really stood out for me, and I thought it was a bit of a shock considering. But I wanted to know about your feelings or opinion of it. It was 2018 and 19 Europa League, and it was against the San Marino side, Tre Fiore, and you won the first like 1-0, but when you went to San Marino, it was 3-0 loss and everything. But what went on? What happened? Because I remember looking at the score and I thought, did I just see that right? That Bala lost to Tre Fiore, but what went on? What happened?
We'd always done okay in the home legs of games. We beat Levadia Tallinn at home, beat them 1-0. We beat Differdange at home 2-1. We'd always done okay at home, and I think when the draw come out, I think people thought it's a real chance for us to go through. And playing, a team from San Marino, and I think we did ourselves. We fancied ourselves going into the game. And like we always do, we always try and get as much information on the opposition as we can. Like I said at the very start, we get in when we're in European competitions. We get in pretty early in the summer, and we always do as much preparation as we can and try and do as much fitness and organisational stuff as we can. And I think it was just, I know it's easy to say now, it was just one of those nights. I think everything went wrong. We had a centre-half who turned just in his own half, a back pass back to the keeper, Ash Morris, who'd come outside his box and he'd scored an own goal from about 40 yards. I think they'll had a volley that he probably won't hit one as sweet as that again from 25 yards, hit someone on the shoulder, looped over Ash. All three of the goals, Ash had come outside of his box to clear one, scuffed it to the centre forward. He's gone and just bent in again from 30 yards. It was one of those games. If you had the game again 10 times, 20 times, the goals they scored would not happen. The floodlights ended up going out as well later on. It literally was one of those nights, and they were going to make us, I think at the time when the floodlights even went out, they were saying, we might have to stay over again that night and play the game or the remaining minutes the next night. And some of the lads were like, well, obviously being part-time, they need to get back to work. And without trying to make excuses, I don't think if the game had been played again, them goals and the situation would have happened again and stuff. Because like I said, we went after that the following week, we played them at home, we beat them. It was just maybe one of those nights that we didn't start the game quite right and things, the goals shouldn't have.
What is it with Bala and floodlights? It just seems to me it's like it's with TNS. Then it was against Barry as well, but it was at Jenner Park. And you said San Marino. I think there was another one as well. I remember it was in the clubhouse once, and someone we heard it was against TNS, and it was a 2-2 draw. It was getting to that point, and I was actually happy for Bala because I can't stand TNS for the life of me. I just cannot stand them. So I was, and next it's like floodlights, and I'm thinking, and someone to shout out, what is it with Bala and the floodlights? Come on, and it's like you said, it is what it is. It's one of those moments with.
It was just, when they went out, I was like, I think I mentioned it. We've had the Italia or San Marino away, floodlight, that was even away, in San Marino, floodlights going out there. Went down to Jenner Park, Barry, an away game, floodlights go out there after 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever it was, and we were 1-0 up at the time.
Yeah.
The TNS game, so yes, 3 times it's happened since I've been there, floodlight failure, but there's nothing you can do. I think TNS at the time, because they just equalised, but we'd gone down to Barry early on in the season, we've gone 1-0 up after 2-3 minutes and the floodlights go out there. It's literally just one of those things that can happen to any club at any time.
Yeah, you beat us in the rematch anyway, so it was okay. But because I remember I said to some of the guys, with the supporters, I'm thinking, that's okay. We might score again in the following, and then we just got our asses kicked. Fair play. So it was funny, to say the least. But I wanted to talk about this particular individual as well, and I love for him to come on the show because I think he's undervalued at best, considering, his experience. Chris Venables, I mean, my God, what a player. What a player. I mean, if you could think of, Welsh Premier League, with Gary Lloyd, being the first Welsh Premier League player to be called up to play for Wales. But don't he deserve an opportunity just to even have that one game, just to prove, that there is talent, there is something there in the Welsh league system. I mean, tell us.
Yeah, there's players that have moved on, isn't there, quite recently and gone to the English system, into the English Football League. And I think if Chris' circumstances, were different, he's good enough to go and have a crack at full-time football. Obviously, maybe not at the minute because of his age. He'd probably want to carry on doing what he's doing. But it's not just him as a player. I think him as a person, his attitude towards the game, that's what's kept him at the top in the Welsh Prem, scoring goals week after week after week. It's the stuff he does away from the pitch as well. People just see that he's at the top of the scoring charts and he's got the golden boot and he's got the player of the season and that. But to do those type of things, you have to put the work in away from the pitch. And even though the majority of the Welsh Prem sides are part-time and we're part-time at Bala, it's the stuff he does, to look after himself. It's the attitude day in, day out, that when he comes to training, we finish training, even if it's been a tough session, hour and a half, 2 hour session, Chris will take 5, even if it's 5-10 minutes at the end of the session, just to put balls in the back of the net, get someone else to put some balls in, can he practice his head? And he's always doing that little bit extra to keep himself at the top end of the game in our league, and full credit to him for doing
that. Let's go on to the 2020-21 Europa League for a moment, because Bala, of course, qualified to go and play in the Europa League, and especially, don't get me wrong, you guys done us proud. We're very proud that the likes of Bala and TNS were progressing a bit further on, and then especially because Connah's Quay, they got knocked out of the Champions League, but they progressed in the Europa League. So we were a bit proud for you guys to try and keep it going, to keep our co-efficiency just a bit up top. Valletta 1-0. What was the circumstances like, considering, because of the COVID issues and everything? How did you guys prepare to go to Valletta and try and play the match?
The football side of it, not much change really. Very early on, the protocols and the regulations that the Welsh FA put in place was a little bit more difficult. The first 2 or 3 weeks in pre-season, where we're only allowed to train, was it twos or small groups? And I can't remember the exact numbers. The lads were only allowed to do that before we could actually come together. Was it in a 10 or 12 then? And then finally the group, the whole squad could come together. So the first 2 or 3 weeks were quite difficult, were strange, having to split the groups up into tiny little groups to get some fitness and other stuff into the lads. But once them 2 or 3 weeks were out the way and we could get together again, like I said, we always try and do as much preparation, as a staff as we can, and look at the opposition and think about how we're going to set up and prepare to play the opposition. And it was a lot of stuff behind the scenes, not just on the football staff, the staff and the football club. I need to mention them really, because I think the time and effort that they put in, even Fiona, the physio, I think she's been recognised with an award since, but the amount of hours and time and effort that the people at the football club put in, to get, the travel arrangements, to get the different COVID regulations and things, that were all credit to them as well. Massive achievement for them as well to get it done.
When you beat Valletta and then it was announced that Standard Liège would be the next opponents, was you guys thinking, right, here we go, big team, big opportunity, let's go for it? Was it a very exciting moment to hear Standard Liège to be your next opponents?
Yeah, the first qualifying round, you always there's a chance you're going to play someone similar to yourselves really, and there's a chance to go through. When they got pulled out the hat. Standard Liège. You see that every year. I think they're playing Rangers tonight, aren't they? In the Europa League. They're in the Europa League season after season. I think they've even got in the Champions League, haven't they, a couple of times. So we knew it was going to be a big task ahead of us, but things didn't really change. The preparation was still very similar to what it was to Valletta. We'd still trained the same, still done the fitness stuff. It was all very, very similar. And it was just a case of going out there, and giving your best and trying to come away with the best result possible, whether that's keeping the score down, whether it's trying to nick a draw and even going on to win the game. You just try and do your preparation and, try and get the best result you can possible.
Can you tell us the experience that when Bala played against Standard Liège, how did you sum up that performance? Even though it was a 2-0 loss, and because of a club like Standard Liège, of course, it's always going to be a difficult challenge, because Standard Liège are advanced, they got the experience, they got the history to back it up anyway. But what was it like for you and the management, even the players, just to go out and experience a match quite like that one in particular?
Well, I think that's what we play the season for. That's what people are involved in football for, whether it's, players, fans like yourself, staff. You're involved in football for nights like that, to go out and test yourselves. I think one of the defenders they'd sold into Milan for millions and they'd bought him back. And, there's players on their side worth millions of pounds. And that's what you're involved in football for, to test yourselves and try and be the best you can, test yourselves against the best. Walking out into the stadium the night before when we had a training session, just to see how big the ground was and different stuff, how they set up, and the setup there was brilliant. And it's a good experience for everyone involved. But then going on to the game, really, we got beat 2-0. If people looked at the stats, the possession, maybe, the free kicks or corner stats, and they had their fair share, which would be expected. But I think it was a little bit closer than what people like to say. You can always tell their manager at times. You look across sometimes at the other bench, and if they're sat back, relaxed, maybe laughing and joking, taking it. He was up a few times, their manager, at 1-0, and we got the penalty. Unfortunately, Chris missed it, but we got the penalty at 1-0 and missed that. And like I said, their manager was up and he was irate, he was agitated a few times during the game and up and shouting and stuff. And you can tell then, that you're kind of causing them problems. And I think we did. We caused them enough problems then to for them to realise they'd been involved in the game.
Do you know, going back now, let's go back in time for a moment. Then it was 2015 and 16 season, but it was the Welsh Cup that I want to talk about, beating TNS, and ending their winning streak. I just, without having to be controversial and everything, because at Barry, we all want to be like, can we just beat TNS and shut them up and just put them in their place without winning a freaking trophy or whatever? But what's the mentality like at Bala? When do you feel the same way when you're going up against TNS, or do you have a different approach to it? So it's just a basic two question. What's it like when you're going to go in against TNS, and what was it like beating them in the Welsh Cup final?
We go in every game against TNS, wanting to beat them. We've tried varied tactics. Tactically we might have adjusted things and gone in a bit different and stuff like that. But it's always the same mindset. You go in, whether it's a team at the bottom of the league, whether it's TNS, we try and win every game, and that's the mindset every time we played them. I can't remember the exact number of games there was a start out that we hadn't beat them in a certain amount of games, since we've come into the league. So for the first one to be the Welsh Cup final, to beat them was obviously a little bit of added incentive, which was great, yeah. But we don't really change. We just obviously try and beat them, and it might be a few adjustments tactically, but we always go out there to do our best and try and beat TNS.
Yeah. No, I understand that. It's the thing about it's like with me and TNS. It's my views on it is that because there's a few people that could be diplomatic about the situation with TNS always finishing the top and everything because they're professionals and that. Don't get me wrong. but there's a lot of people that are very how can I put this? Very conflicted when it comes to TNS winning all the time in the Welsh or the Cymru Premier as it's called. It's like one person came up to approached me at the clubhouse at Jenner Park, and he said to me, does TNS really help matters in the Cymru Premier when they win all the time because it makes the teams look bad? And I always say, well, no, because I think that now at this particular moment, considering that Connors Key won the Welsh Premier League, the Cymru Premier title, considering the likes of Bala and the likes of ourselves, we're all coming a long way just to try and get back at TNS. But would you agree on my comment, or would you think of it in a different perspective? What's your initial approach to the Cymru Premier standard, considering our TNS always win a trophy every season?
No, fair play to him. I'm not one of the, they've set a standard and a benchmark, and like you said yourself there, I think everyone else, it's their job to try and catch them, and obviously Connors Key did last year. Just the league as a whole, I think the more clubs that can improve and close the gap and make themselves more professional, whether it's on the pitch, off the pitch, better for the league. And it's up to everyone else to be like that. It's not just a case of TNS going to win it this year. Connors Key proved last year that they can do it. Why can't Bala do it this year? Why can't Barry do it in the future? It's up to the teams to invest, to do things properly off the pitch, to do things right, as a management staff on the pitch and the players. And it's up to everyone else to just be as professional as they can to help the league. It's not a case of, can we do away with TNS and, to make it, everyone else maybe win a few games. I don't see it like that. I just see it as they've been out on their own other than last season, for the last 10 years. Maybe it has helped being professional, maybe it hasn't, who knows. But, it's up to everyone else to raise their standards and improve the league, like I said, both on and off the pitch, really.
Final question for you then, Brian, and thank you for coming on the Dragon's Voice podcast to talk about your career and your opinions on a few other things, and just talk about football in general. So I really appreciate it. So the final question is, and I always ask everyone this question, is how do you look back on your career?
Some good memories, some not so good memories. I think I did it. I did everything. I wouldn't ever look back with no regrets. I did everything I could, I feel, to give myself the best opportunity and chance to play as high as I could. And yeah, I would never have no regrets on anything, as long as I think you're giving yourself the best chance to be the best you can be, whether obviously now on a coaching or management side of it, but even as a player, I think I did everything that I could have done at the time. Obviously, things move on and maybe sports science moves on, but at the time, I did all I could really at each club, to help that club out, or never look back and think I didn't really try or give as much for that manager. Whether I got on with the manager or not, there wasn't many I didn't really get on with, but I'd always try and give my best for the club and the fans and myself, really, at every club. So yeah, I would look at it with no regrets and just think that, yeah, I did do my best at all my clubs. That was it.
Well then, thank you so much for coming on the Dragon's Voice podcast. It really means a lot for you to come on and talk about your story, so I kindly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers. So guys, that was Ryan Valentine on the Dragon's Voice podcast. So I hope you guys tuning in every Friday for these podcasts to come on. I will try my utmost best just to get you the guests, provide you the very best of the guests, especially like with Ryan and all the others that I've done. And it's all about Welsh football, and you're going to find it here on Dragon's Voice podcast or the Dragon's Voice channel. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. So this has been the Dragon's Voice podcast. I've been your host, Julie Rees, and I'll see you all very soon.